Man has always asked the question, what is it all about? Has life any meaning at all? He sees the enormous confusion with that, the brutalities, the revolt, the wars, the horrors, the endless divisions of religion, ideology, and nationality. And with the sense of deep, abiding frustration, he asks, what is one to do? What is this thing we call living? Is there anything beyond it?
64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is one book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. My name is Igor S.F. Walker. Today, we look at Freedom from the Known by Jiddu Krishnamurti. So how about you slow down, relax, reduce all that noise for just a bit, make that choice, and decide to listen. In this video, we look at a book that is exactly for you. If you want to challenge the ways you look at the world, enhance your spiritual awareness, and open your mind and heart to others. Stick around till the end. I will share with you some tools. I do have a news that will help you tremendously in this game of life. Discover a way to find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. I will share some tools to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management, and relationship management. The question of whether or not there is a God, or truth, or reality, or whatever you like to call it, can never be answered by books, by priests, by philosophers, or by saviors. Nobody and nothing can answer the question but you, yourself. And that is why you must know yourself. Immaturity lies only in total ignorance of oneself. To understand oneself is the beginning of wisdom. We human beings are what we have been for many millions of years, colossally greedy, envious, aggressive, jealous, anxious, despairing, with occasional flashes of joy and affection. We are a strange mixture of hate, fear, and gentleness. We are both violence and we are peace. Any outward social structure is the result of the inward psychological structure of our human relationships. For the individual is the result of the total experience, knowledge, and conduct of man. And we are frightened also of the unknown, frightened of the death, frightened of what lies beyond tomorrow. So we're afraid of the known and afraid of the unknown. All outward forms of change brought about by wars, by revolutions, by reformations, by laws and ideologies have failed completely to change the basic nature of man and therefore of society. As human beings living in this monstrously ugly world, let us ask ourselves, can the society based on competition, brutality, fear come to an end? Not as an intellectual, conceptual, not as an actual fact, so that a mind is made fresh, new and innocent, and can bring about a different world forward altogether. It can only happen, I think, if each one of us recognizes the central fact that we as individuals, as human beings, in whatever part of the world we happen to live or whatever culture we happen to belong to, are totally responsible for the whole state of the whole world. It is important to understand from the very beginning that I am not formulating any philosophy or any theological structure, ideas or theological concepts. It seems to me that all ideologies are utterly idiotic. What is important is not a philosophy of life, but to observe what is actually taking place in our daily life, inwardly and outwardly. And if you do observe very closely what is taking place and examine it, you will see that it is based on an intellectual conception, and that intellect is not the whole field of existence. It is a fragment. And a fragment, however cleverly put together, however ancient, however traditional, is still just a small part of existence. We do have to deal with the totality of life. And when we do look at what is taking place in the world and begin to realize that there is no inner and outer process, there's only one unitary process. There's a whole total movement. The inner movement expressing itself as the outer, and the outer reacting again on the inner. In trying to conform to the ideology, you suppress yourself. Whereas what is actually true is not the ideology, but what you really are. And if you try to study yourself according to another, you will always remain a second-hand human being. To be free of all authority, of one's own and that of another, is to die to everything of yesterday, so that your mind is always fresh, always young, always innocent, full of vigor and full of passion. It is only in that state that one learns and observes. And for this, a great deal of awareness is required. Actual awareness of what is going on inside yourself, without correcting it or telling it what it should or should not be. Because the moment you correct it, you have established another authority, a censor. But how can we be free to look and learn when our minds, from the moment we are born to the moment we die, are shaped by a particular culture and the narrow pattern of the me? For centuries, we have been conditioned by nationality, caste, class, tradition, religion, language, education, literature, art, custom, convention, propaganda of all kinds, economic pressure, the food we eat, the climate we live in, our families, our friends, our experiences, every influence you can think of. And therefore, our responses to every problem are conditioned. Are you aware that you are conditioned? When you struggle against any kind of disturbance or defend yourself against any outer or inner threat, then you know you are conditioned. And as most of us are disturbed most of the time, either superficially or deeply, that very disturbance indicates that we are conditioned. So long as the animal is petted, he reacts nicely. But the moment he's antagonized, the whole violence of his nature comes out. We are disturbed about life, about politics, the economic situation, the horrid brutality, the sorrow in the world, as well as in ourselves. And from that we realize how terribly, narrowly conditioned we are. And what shall we do? Accept that disturbance and live with it, as most of us do? Get used to it, as one gets used to living with the backache? Put up with it? There is a tendency in all of us to put up with things, to get used to them, to blame them on circumstances If things were right, I would be different, we say. Or give me the opportunity and I will fulfill myself. Or I'm crushed by the injustice. Always blaming our disturbance on others, on our environment, or the economic situation. Have you observed what happens to you when you are denied a pleasure? When you do not get what you want? You become anxious, envious, hateful. Have you noticed when you have been denied the pleasure of drinking or smoking or sex or whatever it is, have you noticed what battles you go through? And all that is a form of a fear, isn't it? You're afraid of not getting what you want. You're afraid of losing what you have. Where some particular faith or ideology which you have held for years has shaken or torn away from you by logic or by life, aren't you afraid of standing alone? Living in such a corrupt, stupid society as we do, with the competitive education we receive, which engenders fear. We are all burdened with fears of some kind. And fear is a dreadful thing which wraps, twists, and dwells our days. There's a physical fear, but that is a response that we have inherited from the animals. It is the psychological fears we are concerned with here. For when we understand the deep-rooted psychological fears, we will be able to meet the animal fears. Whereas to be concerned with the animal's fear first will never help us understand the psychological fears. Fear of losing your job, of not having enough food or money, or what your neighbors or public think about you, or not being a success, or losing your position in society, being despised or ridiculed, fear of pain, fear of disease, fear of domination, of never knowing what love is, or of not being loved, or losing your wife, losing children, of death, of living in the world that is like death, of utter boredom, of not living up to the image others have built up about you, or losing your faith. All these and innumerable other fears. Do you know your own particular fears? And what do you usually do about them? You run away from them, don't you? Or you invent ideas and images to cover them. But to run away from fear is only to increase it. One of the major causes of fear is that we do not want to face ourselves as we are. You can watch only when the mind is very quiet, just like you can listen to what somebody is saying only when your mind is not chattering with itself, carrying on a dialogue with itself about its own problems and its own anxieties. Can you, in the same way, look at your fear without trying to resolve it, without bringing in its opposite, courage? Actually look at it and not try to escape from it. When you see that you are a part of fear, not separate from it, that you are fear, then you cannot do anything about it. Then fear comes totally to an end. Now, there are two primary schools of thought in regards to violence. One which says violence is innate in man, and the other which says violence is the result of the social and cultural heritage in which man lives. We are not concerned with which school we belong to. It is of no importance. What is important is the fact that we are violent, not the reason for it. Time is a deceiver, as it doesn't do anything to help us bring about change in ourselves. Time is a movement which man has divided into past, present, and future. And as long as he divides it in such a way, he will always be in conflict. To demand to be safe in relationship inevitably breeds sorrow, breeds fear. This seeking for security is inviting insecurity. Have you ever found security in any of your relationships? Have you? Most of us want the security of loving and being loved. But is there love when each one of us is seeking his own security, his own particular path? We're not loved because we don't know how to love. It is only when we see without any preconceptions, any image, that we are actually able to be in direct contact with anything in life. All our relationships are really imaginary, that is based on an image formed by thought. If I have an image about you and you have an image about me, naturally, we don't see each other at all as we actually are. What we see is the image we have formed about each other, which prevents us from being in contact. And that is why our relationships do go wrong. When I say I know you, I mean I know you yesterday. I do not know you actually now. All I know is my image of you. Two people who have lived together for a long time, they have an image of each other, which prevents them from really being in a relationship. If we do understand a relationship, we can cooperate. But cooperation cannot possibly exist through images, through symbols, through ideological conceptions. Only when we understand the true relationship between each other is there a possibility of love. And love is denied when we do have images. Life is very real. Life is not an abstraction. And when you meet it with images, there are all kinds of problems. Why has thought become so important in our lives? Thought being ideas, being the response to the accumulated memories in the brain cells. Perhaps many of you have not even asked such a question before, or if you have, you may have said, it's of very little importance. What is important is emotion. But I do not see how you can separate the two. If thought doesn't give continuity to a feeling, feeling dies very quickly. So why in our daily lives, in our grinding, boring, frightened lives, has thought taken on such inordinate importance? Space and silence are necessary to go beyond the limitations of consciousness, but how can a mind which is so endlessly active in its self-interest be quiet? One can discipline it, control it, shape it, but such torture does not make the mind quiet, it merely makes it dull. Obviously, the mere pursuit of the idea of having a quiet mind is valueless, because the more you force it, the more narrow and stagnant it actually becomes. Control in any form, like suppression, produces only conflict. So, control and outward discipline are not the way. Nor has an undisciplined life any value. See, meditation is one of the greatest arts in life, perhaps the greatest. And one cannot possibly learn it from anybody. And that's the beauty of it. It has no technique, therefore no authority. When you learn about yourself, watch yourself. Watch the way you walk, how you eat, what you say, the gossip, the hate, the jealousy. If you are aware of all of that in yourself, without any choice, that is part of meditation. So meditation can take place when you are sitting in a bus or walking in the woods full of light, shadows, or listening to the singing of the birds, or looking at the face of your wife or your child. In the understanding of meditation, there is love. And love is not the product of systems, of habits, of following a method. Love cannot be cultivated by thought. Love can perhaps come into being when there is complete silence. A silence in which the mediator is entirely absent, and the mind can be silent only when it understands its own movement as thought and feeling. To observe in such a way is the discipline. And that kind of discipline is fluid, it is free, not the discipline of conformity. So, is fear perhaps the reason why you have not got the energy of that passion to find out for yourself why this quality of love is missing inside of you? Why there's not this flame in your heart? If you have examined your own mind, your heart, very closely, you will know why you haven't got it. If you are passionate in your discovery why you haven't felt it, you will know it is there. Through complete negation alone, which is the highest form of passion, that thing which is love comes into being. Like humility, you cannot cultivate love. Humility comes into being when there is a total ending of conceit. Then you will never know what it is to be humble. And there you have it. Freedom from the known. Please do help out. It is easy. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Do share it. Spread the word. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, start a conversation. Subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. The link to this book is in the description below. Buy it, read, never stop learning, especially learning about yourself and nature. So gift yourself by taking the free Human Needs Test on my website. Find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. And if you feel you are ready to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management, and your relationship management even further, do check out my Master of Life Awareness program. The links are in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.